We appreciate you watching and listening to the Dead Jeff Show. Please like and subscribe and tune in for more videos. And speaking of championship weekend, what a great segue, Nick.
Yeah.
We're going to talk NFL divisional playoff round results, recaps. Man, look, we had two really good games and two stinkers. All right, so where do you want to start? Do you want to start in the
Get this.
AFC or do you want to start in the NFC?
Honestly, I think we started in the AFC just because of the unfortunate thing that happened. It's probably a much shorter conversation, to be totally honest.
Okay, let's go there. So the first game was Buffalo versus Denver, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And this was a really interesting game. You know, we talked a lot about the table being set up for Josh Allen, right? To hey, you don't have the big quarterbacks to go through, Lamar, Patrick, Joe Burrow, not any of those guys. You don't have them to go through. But you did have to go to Denver and win a road game,
Yep.
right? And listen, Josh Allen, and this was a kind of a deal in all of the AFC games was
Yep.
turnover city left and right, and the weather played a factor into that. But Josh Allen turns the ball over. I lost count how many times he turned it over. Um, Two really bad fumbles, like really bad fumbles. And then the Broncos win the game in overtime. And did you see Josh Allen in the press conference after the game?
Yeah, I did, man. And honestly, it's just, uh, I think heartbreaking losses and heartbreaking, just anything this was a heartbreaking. I think that gets thrown around a little too much in sport. This felt heartbreaking because it just really felt like one of his last best chances. Now, who knows what happens, right? They could retool quickly, and he's still a great quarterback. I don't want to take anything away from him, but the table was in front of him. Everything was in front of him, and this just sucks because at the end of the day, and I think in reflecting on it, the immediate thought afterwards is the way they lost and the refs and all that stuff. But when you go back and actually look at the stats, and you kind of look at the film and you watch the game, he didn't play good enough. And I think that's, he played when he played well, he played very well. His high moments were very high, but he had some really, really bad low moments. And I think that's the
That's fair.
unfortunate thing here. So in that press conference, man, it just felt terrible for him. But at the same time, it's not an accident when you're, 0 and whatever in overtime. I think it's 0 and 7 in overtime.
That's a
Like to have
crazy
never
stat.
won. Yeah, it's like you've never won an overtime game in your professional career. Like that's not like there's something to that, right? So,
Well,
um,
maybe because he's some of those overtime games he never got the ball. So that's
it's,
that's one thing
it's
about that record.
very true, very true. Um,
But he did
but
say after in the press conference, he owned it. He said,
yeah,
"I felt like I let my teammates down, and that's why this
yeah,
is so hard." Because you know, I mean, with the five turnovers, they still were in overtime with the Broncos, and we'll get to
hmm
their heartbreak in a second. But the just owning it was a step. But now look, if that happened to Lamar or some other quarterback, I don't know that he'd be getting this much of a pass, right?
completely agree.
On what's happened because Josh is likable, because Josh has been the lovable losing quarterback in a lot of these scenarios. People root for him, right? And this game was really a lot on him. He
hmm
just he just turned the ball over recklessly a few times. Now I think one of the picks was off a receiver's hand
Yeah,
and should have been caught, but it wasn't totally on Josh. The defense did give up 33 points, but I would put this game a lot on Josh and the mistakes that were made.
yeah. I mean, I think like the kind of leader he is and has become and has matured into, he said everything right. And a lot of the counterpoint to that was, this isn't on him, this is on all of us, sort of thing. In terms of some of the other defensive leaders and even head
The
coach.
coach, yeah,
Um, yeah, but I mean, 2 interceptions, 3 fumbles. He lost 2 of them, and that one before the half was just,
yeah,
just a really, really bad turnover. So, yeah, he didn't play good enough, said all the right things. I think, I personally don't want to see them make a coaching change. Like, I don't think that they should be there. Um, but kind of seems split. I love spying on the other local radio stations of these teams, and kind of a lot of chatter was, at least from the podcasters and the kind of highest viewed people in the Buffalo area, like they're ready to move on. It's kind of a Harbaugh situation. It's like, it doesn't just seems like we're stuck here, kind of the Tony
Mm,
Dungy
yeah.
and John Gruden thing.
Mike Tomlin, same
Mike
thing.
Tom, yeah, like you just not saying that you're not a good coach, not saying that you don't become instantly a very intriguing prospect for a lot of other teams, but it just might be time to move on. They're probably not going to be able to get it done.
Well, before we talk about McDermott, what did you think of the Cooks play? Do you think that was a catch, an interception? What do you think about that controversy? All the Buffalo Bills fans are pointing to this controversy, and even McDermott mentioned it. I think
Yeah.
he was more talking about didn't you stop down and review it?
Mhm.
What did you think about this play? Because when they slowed it down really slow, it did look like he's knee hit, he's on his back with the ball in his left hand, and then the guy strips it away. I I don't know. To me, that's really tough for the ref to make the decision that fast. When we slow it down, it could look a certain way. But I really like the explanation that they gave on the broadcast, and I don't think you can call that a catch. I think it has to be ruled an interception. Just my opinion.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that assessment. I don't disagree with the, like, you have to possess the ball, take it through the ground, like, you have to establish clear possession through the catch. I don't disagree with that. And now, when you slow it down to, like, super, super slow-mo, it feels like he caught it, it feels like he possessed it, but if you even watch it in remotely,
Oh, here it is, right
and
here.
here's a great look at the play, um,
He's down.
it
Oh,
looks yeah,
it's his ball. Oh,
yeah, it does,
yeah.
but here's my bigger problem with this as you look at this play. To me, this is the exact same pass interference call that was
Oh,
called
before the
go
catch. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like, going the other direction, you had a defensive back that was playing the receiver, never locates the ball, clearly makes contact with the receiver, and there's no pass interference call. Going the other direction, the exact same thing happens. So, I don't necessarily have a problem with this being an interception. I think that's really tough in that
Yeah.
spot. The problem I do have with this, especially because we know now what happens, 5 to 10 minutes later, is this should have been PI. To me, this is a pass interference call, and the game's over because this is at the 35-yard line or whatever it is.
Mm.
Like, and so that's my bigger problem here, and that part for Buffalo Bills fans, that's the issue I have. And James Cook was running like 5.9 a carry or something. They run the ball twice. They're kicking like a 30-yarder for the game. So,
Yeah, I think the thing about a catch has been debated a lot. Here's what I'll say is when are you down by contact, right? Because we know you have to survive the ground,
right.
and you could say, okay, he survived the ground there, and then the guy stripped it away from him as he's rolling over. So that's the point the Bills fans are making, and it's hard for a referee to make that call and as fast as it happens. I could
Well,
see
the
this, whatever they called on the field, that it was going to stand.
Yeah, and that's exactly what happened. But I think the thing, obviously not a Bills fan, I was pulling for Josh Allen, but to be totally impartial, before anything else, you have to establish possession. Before
Right.
you can be down by contact, you have to establish possession.
And he did.
Eh,
I don't think he
but I
did.
think that's the question, like,
That
did
was the
he?
question. Did he do that?
I
Right, and
don't
I
think he
don't.
did.
I'm with Luke. I don't believe he did. I don't think it was enough time to
Okay.
establish
Yeah, it
possession.
Then
wasn't
it's an
obvious
interception.
enough.
Yeah.
Right. Right. And so that's why I'm saying, like, on the interception conversation,
Yeah.
I I was screaming that was possession down by contact. And then as I watched it a couple times, I was like, you know what? He couldn't establish possession. But that's where then I was like, but that's passing even before
Yeah.
the next sequence I'm like, that's PI though. Like, you have to call that PI every single time.
Um,
And then, I was talking to my brother and he was like, well, they're not going to call that in that spot for the game, which I said, and they had it all night long. So I said,
but
you
they
know
did
what?
later.
And that's the problem, and that's the problem is they
Yeah.
hadn't called that all night long. They
Yeah.
swallowed the whistles, which is great. That's what we all wanna see, but then 5 minutes later, however long, the game's decided on
Yeah.
Do
essentially the exact same call.
you think that's pass interference on the defense?
I just think the way they called it the other one, he never locates the ball, he's clearly pulling down his right arm,
His
he's
left
playing the
arm, the
receiver and
defensive
makes
back's left
contact.
arm is
Yeah,
Right.
pulling down his or
but
his
it's
left
not.
arm.
If
He's
you're
pulling the
not looking
receiver's arm.
back at the ball, it doesn't the rule is very clear. If you're not playing the ball, you cannot make contact with the receiver before the ball gets there, and he
But
obviously does.
he's on his arm after, like,
No, right
he
there, he's
pull
on his arm.
I know, but he already has the ball's already out of the air at that point. It's not like the ball's still in the air and
Like,
he's hitting his arms. You see what I'm saying? Because his
Mm,
arm was
Well, I
I
think we'd
think
have
it
to
is.
go
I
back.
think, yeah.
Hold on a
his
second.
arm
I think
is
we'd have to go back a little bit because they were hand fighting, and then when he goes like
his
right there, his
arms.
hand is on his arm.
He's already
Yeah,
contacting him, though.
Yes,
Regardless of
he
the
is.
arm, look at the
hold
bodies.
on.
Like, he's
Let me go
already
to
making
this.
contact with the receiver.
I think here's what I'd say. I wouldn't call
His
that.
hands are open
I
though. See the
I know, but
the
he's
white glove?
contacting him right there. He's still got his arm down. He can't close his hands good. But here's what I'll say. If you're not calling this, then you don't call the other ones that they called on Buffalo
Right.
because it's sort of the same stuff. That's what I'll
Right.
say. If I don't really think this is pass interference, but I didn't think what Buffalo did was one of them wasn't in my mind.
The second one was clear on Tre'Davious White. Zero question it was pass interference. Like, Tre'Davious White got penalized for another 15 and was going nuts. That was obviously pass interference. There is zero question. But the one up the sideline, that was the one that was to me exactly like this.
Well,
and I agree.
also,
Don't call either one of them.
yeah, but think about what else was also called. I believe there was a roughing the passer that was also called. So even if they didn't call the pass interference, I believe there was still a roughing the passer. I think there was 2 penalties.
That's fair. Yeah,
I
On
think
one of those,
if I remember, I could be confusing.
it was the first one. He's right.
Like it was a double whammy against Buffalo. So I don't think that that's like, oh,
Yeah.
the refs robbed the game. Like even if they didn't throw that, there was
Yeah.
still a penalty. So
Yes, that's fair. That's fair. And listen, we've spent a lot of time talking about Buffalo who lost the game. So let's switch over and talk about Denver. And we saw good and bad from Bo Nix as well, right, in this game. And we got a little shocker after the game. After Bo Nix, drives them down and they get the game-winning field goal. Then we hear the news that he fractured his ankle. Somewhere in that last, I guess, second to last play or whatever it was, and that he's out for the season. So heartbreak for the Broncos too, because it's really hard to win with your backup quarterback, let alone the AFC Championship game.
Yeah, 100%, man. It's just, first of all, too, he got hurt on the there were 6 minutes to go on overtime. It was right after the first set of on the roughing the passer play. Right after, it wasn't on the roughing the passer play. It was on the very next play. If I've got this correct here, I'm Tom Pelissero. It has the report there. So I think first of all, obviously very very gritty to keep playing on a ankle that has a broken bone in it, essentially. Like, dude's tough as nails. Here's what I'll say about him having good and bad, just like Josh Allen. His MO though has been good and bad through 3.5 quarters. Fourth quarter with 8 minutes or so to go, he's almost the one that jumps in the phone booth and puts on the cape. Like, he has been phenomenal in those spots all year long. This is not a flash in the pan for Bo Nix. He had been doing that all year long. This is something that he did at Oregon quite a bit. All the way back to Auburn, he was doing a little. So I think, like, he's got a history of this. This is not, he got on a heater in this overtime. Like, shout out to that guy, and man, just absolutely heartbreaking. Regardless of, I was obviously pulling for Buffalo here. It seems like that is just so unlucky, because I think Broncos Patriots was going to be a phenomenal game, and home field advantage may have been the difference. Not saying that Broncos can't win the game; they certainly can, but obviously this gets much more difficult without Bo Nix. So just really heartbroken for the guy, man. That sucks.
Yeah, and for Denver, the defense played well enough to win, but not great because you
Right.
had all those turnovers because you had 5 turnovers from Buffalo because Cook also fumbled.
Yep.
Which seems to be a running thing for him. He's been fumbling a lot this year. And so Buffalo had 5 turnovers, but were in this game. And it's because Denver's defense didn't play as well as they have been playing, but they played, I guess, well enough to win the game. And they made some timely plays, which helped them secure this victory. But I feel terrible for Bo Nix. And, Sean Payton's saying all the right things about oh, we're good with Stidham. We're not going to have much of a drop off, and maybe that will be the case. But I think it's a tough thing, going up against the Patriots. But they are at home, and I did pick the Broncos to beat the Bills, even though I was rooting for Josh Allen as well. But I have the Patriots going to the Super Bowl, and this I think makes it easier for them, right? And
For
and I
sure.
just hate that for the Broncos because it's hard to get the 1 seed, and it's very hard to win with your backup quarterback, especially in the playoffs.
I think if you're a Broncos fan, I think Jarrett Stidham's been there for 3 seasons. This is his 3rd season now in Denver. So he's been there with Sean Payton. I don't want to compare Stidham to Nick Foles, but there are some similarities there. There's a few things that if you look at, Stidham's been around for a while. This is his 7th or 8th year in the league. So he's got some professional experience. He's been with Sean Payton the whole time, so he's comfortable with the system. Again, I do think the Patriots will win this game. We're not doing predictions. I'm just saying that I don't think that anyone that's just saying the Broncos can't possibly win this game, just be careful. There's a little bit of
Yeah.
history here. There's a precedent that says a guy in the same system with the same head coach that is a experienced NFL backup, he's only got to win 2 games, man. It's possible with that defense.
Well, don't forget Jeff Hostetler for the Giants filling in for Phil Simms, and
Mm-hmm.
Parcells is the mentor to Sean Payton.
Sean Payton, yeah.
So there could be that connection. I know you're too young to remember Jeff Hostetler coming in and doing that, winning the Super Bowl for the Giants, but that's what happened. And so I think that they could do it. And you mentioned Nick Foles for the most recent situation. But don't forget, Tom Brady took over for Drew Brees, but he had a lot more games before they got to the Super
Yeah.
Bowl. But it's going to be tough, but yeah, they can do it. Sean Payton, knows what he's doing. And if the defense plays as good as they can, Drake May didn't look all that special today. He made some plays when he had to. But shout out to Bo Nix, speedy recovery. My heart hurts for Josh Allen, but man, you can't turn the ball over like that.
Yeah.
And as far as Sean McDermott goes, because I said we'll get to him in a second, do you really think he'd be a top candidate in some of these other places?
Yeah, I really do because look, I think especially for the way that he has kind of controlled the chaos that is the basically having to go through essentially 2 rebuilds. Now he had Josh Allen, through it, but if you look at kind of the I guess I'll say the Stephon Diggs, Josh Allen years, and then without him, there's a lot of other stuff in that. The defense was a lot better, and there's all kinds of stuff in there. But I think when you can consistently win over the course of kind of several different iterations of your team, obviously Mike Tomlin, obviously John Harbaugh, like that's what
fair.
it seems like
Yeah.
McDermott has the ability to do. But it also feels like there's a little bit more of a sense of urgency with Josh Allen. And I think especially for some of the younger quarterbacked teams, a Cam Ward, the Vegas Raiders, who can go get a Fernando Mendoza, like McDermott going into one of those situations with a young quarterback seems like it would be a really, really good situation for them.